this watch, and this watch, and every single one of them shows the exact same time as a $10 Casio. So then why do people pay $50 million for one of these? Is it really just a hobby? Or is there something behind it that nobody talks about? But today, I'm not here to talk about watches. Today I'm here to talk about something older than this watch, something more valuable than this watch, and something without which this watch could have never been built. And that thing is money. From Anand Ambani to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, there are collections worth so much that if you calculated the value, it could take care of 7 generations of most families. So again, the same question comes, what is the actual reality behind it? Why do people spend $50, $100 million on just one object? But going even further back, have you ever tried to think about how money, which today literally sells for millions, actually evolved? How was the world's first financial system created? Who created it? And why? What was it that humans needed so badly that they took something that was flowing naturally, exchange, trust, borrowing, and trapped it inside a system and created greed among people? Was this just a normal innovation like every other innovation? Or is there a secret hidden behind it that never reached you? Look, think about it. Humans took trust, which is an invisible thing, and trapped it inside this machine called money and made it visible. Isn't it crazy? And these were the exact questions in my head that forced me to make this documentary. And not just that. Last month I went to a bank to sign some loan papers, and while I was sitting there, signing those documents, I suddenly thought, where did this concept come from? This idea that I owe someone money, written on paper, legally binding. And that was the moment the idea hit me. Why not make a detailed documentary on the entire history of finance? And here it is. And I give you this guarantee, by the end of this documentary, you will know so much about money that you'll feel like you've completed a PhD in finance. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Now, if I ask you, what exactly is money? You'll probably immediately say, whatever's in my wallet, or whatever number shows up on my phone, 500 rupees, $100, etc., etc. But have you ever thought about it this way? Your money doesn't create value. It only represents value. If you really put pressure on your brain and think, money itself is an invisible concept. It has no shape, no color, no smell, no weight. You can touch a $100 bill, sure, but you cannot touch its value. That is just trust. A story that all of us collectively decided to believe. And this was the biggest problem of human civilization. Because if trust is invisible, then how do you measure it? And from this exact curiosity, something absolutely fascinating emerged. Look, today we see money through our wallets and our phones. But there was a time when humans had no money, no coins, no notes, no banks. So now the question becomes, if no such system existed, then how did people exchange things? The answer is, they borrowed value from nature. They looked at things. Wheat, goats, salt, shells, they figured out value from these things. For example, if I have 2 goats and you have 1 sack of wheat, we can make a deal. Obviously, this wasn't exact value, but they could approximate an exchange. But human civilization has always had one special quality. It has always focused on innovation. Humans have always tried to figure out how we can make existing things better. And from this exact curiosity, something incredibly innovative emerged around finance. 3300 BC, ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. During this time, the Sumerians faced a very interesting problem. In their temples, they had thousands of workers, thousands of tons of grain stored, merchants coming in, going out, deals happening everywhere, but no records, no system. So now the question arose, how do you track all of this? And this is where the biggest breakthrough in history happened. They made small clay tokens. A cone meant wheat, a sphere meant oil, a cylinder meant an animal, and they sealed these tokens inside a clay ball. But then a problem came. Every time you had to break the ball open to see what was inside. So one scribe thought, why don't I just make marks on the outside of the ball so I know what's inside without breaking it? And just like that, without meaning to, that one lazy scribe invented writing. Yes, writing. Whatever you're reading right now, whatever I'm speaking right now, whatever's in your books, it was born because someone needed to track a debt. Writing wasn't born from poetry. It wasn't born from prayer. It was born because someone needed to say, you owe me 10 sacks of wheat. And it doesn't stop there. On those clay tablets, what was written? Loans, terms, interest rates, deadlines, and a warning. If you don't pay, I will take everything you own. Now you're probably thinking, that's exactly what the bank tells me today. And exactly. The only difference is that today it's not a clay tablet. It's a PDF, but the concept, same, 4,000 years old. But here's the problem. In Mesopotamia, loans grew so much, interest grew so much, that poor people started selling their land, their freedom, even their children. Society got so angry that the fear of revolution was real. And then the king made a decision. He said, enough. All personal debt is cancelled. They called it a debt jubilee. Every few decades, the ruler would wipe out all personal debts, reset the economy, bring balance back to society. Now you tell me, when today America debates student loan forgiveness, when the government gives economic stimulus, is it doing something different? No. It's doing the exact same thing a Babylonian king did 4,000 years ago. Now travel west, down the Nile, ancient Egypt, and here you'll find a completely different system. Egypt had no coins, no silver, no gold exchanges. In Egypt, money was grain, just grain. Your salary? Grain. Your taxes? Grain. Your rent? You guessed it, grain. But here's the fascinating part. Where was that grain stored? In the pharaoh's granaries. And what did those granaries become? Banks. You deposit your grain, you get a receipt. And using that receipt, you can take out a loan in oil, or linen, or copper. They literally had warehouse banking 3,000 years before the Bank of England even existed. And their unit of value? The deben. 90 grams of metal weight. Not a coin, not a note, just a number. A ledger entry, which means Egypt invented abstract money without ever touching a single coin. Then came 630 BC, Lydia, modern-day Turkey. And here someone had an idea that changed the entire world. He thought, if every single time I have to weigh metal, why don't I just stamp it? Weight guaranteed, purity guaranteed, official, and just like that, one strike of a hammer, and history's first coin was born. People were literally shocked seeing this, because for the first time, money wasn't just a concept. It became a physical object. Put it in your pocket. Take it anywhere. Give it to anyone. The Greeks took it and made it art. Every city-state made its own coin. Athens stamped an owl. Corinth stamped a winged horse. These weren't just money, this was branding. Political propaganda in your pocket. Then came Rome. And Rome said, we don't just want a coin, we want a system. The silver denarius. This coin was born to pay soldiers, but it became the symbol of trust. You could walk into a market in Britain or Syria or Egypt, and that little silver coin held the same value everywhere. But here comes a but, and this but is very dark. War costs went up. Empire expansion costs went up. So emperors started, less silver in the coin, same face value. 95% silver dropped to 5%. People figured it out. Prices skyrocketed. Trust collapsed. Now you tell me, when today a government prints money it doesn't have, when inflation eats your paycheck, are you not watching the fall of the denarius again? But empires don't run on coins alone. They run on risk. Imagine this. You're a merchant in Athens. You have a ship full of olive oil headed for Sicily. If it arrives, you're rich. If it sinks, you lose everything. So what do? You go to a moneylender. He gives you the funding. The deal is this. If the ship arrives, you pay him back with 20–30% interest. But if the ship sinks, the debt is gone. He eats the loss. This is the bottomry loan, the great-grandfather of modern insurance, the great-grandfather of venture capital, the great-grandfather of every high-risk, high-reward deal on Shark Tank. The Romans wrote it into law. The Phoenicians built an empire on it. And this principle, pay a premium now, protect against disaster later. This is the reason you have car insurance, health insurance, and a 401k today. So here's what I want to leave you with. When tomorrow morning, you pick up your phone and tap to pay for coffee, you're doing the exact same thing a Sumerian scribe did on a clay tablet 4,000 years ago, recording a transaction. When you pay your mortgage, you're repeating the same contract that was written in 4,000 years ago. When the Fed raises interest rates, they're doing what Mesopotamian temple priests did when they set the rate on a barley loan. And when Congress debates forgiving student debt, they're having the same argument a Babylonian king settled with a debt jubilee. We like to think finance is new, that Wall Street invented it, that Silicon Valley disrupted it. But the truth is, every spreadsheet, every stock ticker, every crypto wallet is just the latest chapter of a story that started when one man pressed a reed into wet clay and said, You owe me. By the way, what topic do you want the next documentary on? Let me know in the comments, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel right now.